Hey there, everyone. Dave Keller here with Market Misbehavior, and welcome to my weekly show here on Stockcharts TV. As we kick off the week here, we're actually going to look at an indicator called Fibonacci Retracements. This is an indicator that I kind of occasionally use in my own process. I don't use it on every chart, but when the chart suggests it, and I will show you what you would need to see on the chart to think, wow, this is a great time for Fibonacci retracements. When you see those signs, this is where it can be very, very helpful. A general idea with Fibonacci retracements, we're trying to identify key support and resistance levels once a stock has established a range, and I think that's the important thing to remember. Before we get to a couple example charts and using the Fibonacci retracement approach, I just want to remind you, if you're looking for my market recap show, go to my YouTube channel called Market Misbehavior. Every weekday after the close, we'll recap the market action using indicators like Fibonacci retracements and other parts of the technical and behavioral toolkits to keep you informed, keep you educated, and keep you aware of what's happening. We also have a Market Misbehavior podcast where I've interviewed a number of the Stockcharts contributors and many other market practitioners to tease out some nuggets of investment wisdom and get some sense of how they are approaching the current market environment. You can find all of that on our Market Misbehavior YouTube channel. The podcast you can also find on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and wherever else you listen to your podcast type of things. All right, so here we're going to go to the Stockcharts platform. I've got a couple example charts that I think really illustrate good examples of where the Fibonacci approach makes a lot of sense, and also just specifics about how we're applying them. Then we'll look at the S&P 500, sort of apply what we've learned and think about some potential areas of support if there is a top at any point in our future here. So to start off, we're looking at the chart of Microsoft, and as we do so, I'll just show you how you can actually use Fibonacci retracements here on the Stockcharts platform. So from the chart, what you want to do is click on the Annotate button just above the chart, and if you're looking in Stockcharts ACP, there's a toolkit on the left side of the chart where you can find all of these indicators as well. On the sharp charts, which is kind of the main charts you're probably using on Stockcharts, go to these little curves down here, these little arcs, and we want to select Fibonacci retracements. Now, for today, we're just going to be talking about Fibonacci retracements, but if you look down that list, you will find that people use the Fibonacci sequence in a number of different things. This little icon is actually for Fibonacci arcs, where we look at the time-price relationship. We can do Fibonacci time zones. We're actually looking at projecting cycle moves based on the Fibonacci sequence. We also have what's called a Fibonacci fan, where you create diagonal lines based on that these same Fibonacci percentages. For me, I honestly just mostly use Fibonacci retracement. I don't really use the other techniques too often, but I'd encourage you to experiment. They may find some value for you. So why is Microsoft a good chart to use a Fibonacci retracement? Quite simply because it had a big sell-off, right? From the peak in October, and this is a huge, just kind of classic double top pattern when it hit 550 back here in July of last year and then retested that in October of this year. From there, we started to have a downtrend. We broke through the 200-day moving average. We continued further and further until eventually finding a low in late March, right around 355. Then we just started to turn higher. And I will tell you, right when we start to turn higher and it feels like, okay, this feels like a pretty good range for the stock, right? From a pretty good downtrend. From this point, I said how I only use the one and then I picked the wrong one. There we go, Fibonacci retracements. We click on the high, we drag it down to the low. So what I've basically told the chart is, here's an important high, here's an important low. Now that we're coming back between the two extremes, what levels could I anticipate may serve as good resistance on the way up? And we have some other examples of stocks that have had good runs higher and then are pulling back, and we essentially do the opposite. But what happens when I select this framework, you can see that this is now the 0% line. This is the 100% point. So 38.2% is basically 38.2% of the way back up to the peak. So the idea is we're using the Fibonacci sequence to retrace a certain percentage, right, back to the ultimate high. You can see the other levels that we use are the 50% level and then the 61.8% level. And if you're wondering where these percentages come from, boy, that's going to be a whole hour-long webcast probably to explain the backing, but The simple version is this comes from a numerical sequence called the Fibonacci sequence. There's an Italian mathematician, Leonardo Fibonacci, who is credited with creating this, or Leonardo da Pisa was credited with creating this thing, and he supposedly thought about rabbits and how they mate and the exponential rise in their growth. So you start with one pair of rabbits, and then you get two, and then you get four, and then you get one, and then two, and then 2 plus 3 are 5, 3 plus 5 are 8, 5 plus 8 are 13. And so you get this exponential growth where you add two numbers to get the third number. That series of numbers, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55, etc., is called the Fibonacci sequence. As you get further along, every number in that sequence is 0.618 of the next number, and every number in that sequence is 1.618 times the previous number. And as you get further, it gets more and more to those sort of precise measurements. So 61.8% or 0.618 is known as the golden ratio. You find this in a lot of different things like music, architecture, human beings, our facial structures have a lot of Fibonacci sequences, etc., etc. That's about the 1 minute version of where Fibonacci numbers come from. In the investing circle and technical analysis, what we use are called Fibonacci retracements. We key in on that 61.8% level. Once we set a framework, right? Once we set an extreme, a high and a low, or a low then a high, we can then retrace 61.8% of the way back. 38.2%, where if you add these together, that equals 100%. So that's why we use those two percentages. Now, what did we actually do in practice? Well, look at the chart on Microsoft, right? We had this big downtrend, then we start to recover. So the moment we start to rally, that's when we put the Fibonacci retracements, and that gives us an initial upside target, the 38.2% level, right around 429 to 430. And if you look, about 3 weeks later, we literally hit it almost perfectly before pulling back. And that ended up serving as resistance a number of times. So what happens there is that's the level, sort of an initial upside objective, which means if you are buying the stock at the lows, that could be where you initially take profits. If you are, we've gotten up to this point and you've not taken a trade, maybe you wait for a break above that 38.2% level as a sign that there's more upside momentum to be had. In either case, the stock definitely found resistance right around 430. Makes a lot of sense. We then hit resistance there a couple times. We then finally break out. So now that we've broken out, now that we've broken above the 200-day, 475 would represent a 61.8% retracement. Based on the Fibonacci framework, that could be the next sort of upside target where we could anticipate key resistance. There's no guarantee that the price is going to hit any of these Fibonacci levels, and I have found using them on their own never ideal. So what I often like to do is combine Fibonacci retracements with things like momentum, right? So when we become overbought, as we reach one of the key Fibonacci levels, that can tell you a little bit about the price momentum as we're approaching that level of resistance, right? So we might anticipate that the stock will find resistance there because we're overbought as we reach that anticipated level of resistance. So that's the quick version of where these percentages come from. 61.8% and 38.2% are the two key levels. There are secondary levels that other people use, like 23.6% and others. Honestly, I don't use those secondary levels a whole lot. I tend to think just a little more big picture about a general framework. Let's look at a couple other examples about how we can apply this. So Lululemon, an example of a stock that was in a pretty good downtrend here. So we can see from last summer, June through September, right? So the June peak was pretty important. The September, October, November lows, obviously pretty important as well. The reason why I thought this was a great example is because the gaps really help sort of define the framework here, right? So we had an initial gap lower here in June. We call that a breakaway gap, right? A new gap in a new direction. Actually created kind of an island reversal of sorts here for Lululemon as it failed to hold above the 200-day moving average. That gap down really tells you that's a meaningful peak. And then here we have what's called an exhaustion gap. After an extended run lower, we have one big gap down and then we never really go much further. So I think that's a pretty clear indication that that's a good framework to use. And I keep using the word framework. That's how I usually think of it, right? A Fibonacci framework, because what it really does is it sort of gives a structure to the chart and gives you an idea of where you may anticipate support or resistance. So if you look at what happened, and this is a trick that I actually use, I often will do a horizontal line, and then I'll kind of put a horizontal line right over one of the Fibonacci levels. A lot of times I'll make it a dashed line, and that just kind of gives me a good visual reference as we go forward, just to make sure I follow the key charts here. So what that basically says is, after this move lower from June to September, what might we anticipate resistance? What's a reasonable upside target for Lululemon? And the answer, according to this Fibonacci framework, would be around 228. Another reason why I think this is an important example is, once we finally started to rally up here, look how we got right up to that Fibonacci level. Look how we became overbought as we approached it. And look at how the 200-day moving average lines up beautifully with that Fibonacci level. This is what we call a confluence of resistance, when multiple independent technical indicators all kind of coalesce at a similar level. That's sort of the validation from multiple strategies, different calculations, all kind of agreeing at a similar level. For me, that's more of a high percentage play. So what that means is, if I bought into Lululemon at the lows and I'm riding this price higher, maybe that's where I start to take profits. Maybe that's where I take a little bit off, particularly as a swing trader. Maybe I anticipate some resistance there. And I will tell you, if you're on a swing trading time frame, Fibonacci retracements really, in a lot of ways, are ideal for that, because it's just trying to help give you a structure, give you a good risk reward calculation. So here I can see there's my upside target, and I would expect some sort of resistance there. Here, of course, it held pretty well. And then from there, we were overbought. We're at the 200-day. We're at the Fibonacci level. That was it. Now we've gone further. So how do we use this going forward? So what I do now is, maybe we've got a new level of resistance here, right? A new sort of framework using that peak. And maybe I use this low, which would tell me, if we get any much further, maybe I look around 158 as an initial upside target off of those lows. So the subjective nature of Fibonacci retracements, as you can see, the chart just doesn't automatically load with Fibonacci retracements. You have to define the highs and the lows. And I think that's where people a lot of times get into trouble. A lot of times I'll find people use kind of these random levels, kind of like in the middle of somewhere. And I always tell them, look, it's up to you to decide what are the most meaningful highs and lows, because that's what you really want to do. You want to do extreme price range, take the highest high and the lowest low, and then use this to give you a structure between there. So which highs and lows you use, that is somewhat subjective. What I always encourage people to think about is, when you look at the chart, what stands out as the most important highs and lows, or where are the highs kind of sticking out on their own? Where are the lows kind of sticking out on their own, right? The lows surrounded by higher lows, the highs surrounded by lower highs. That gives you an idea of the relative importance of the different peaks and valleys. Just take a big, deep breath and a big, deep step back from the chart and think about some of these key turning points. Those are the levels you probably want to think about when you're sort of creating your own Fibonacci framework on any of the charts that you're using. Here's AT&T, which actually has a number of pretty good examples here recently. A lot of the examples we've been looking at have been stocks kind of rotating lower. And sure enough, right, we can see the sell-off from the September peak to the kind of late October lows. We rally up to right around 38.2%. We can then say, all right, what about on the way up? We have this big rally off of the lows from, the low in January to the peak here in February. We pulled back to the 38.2% level before rallying back off of there. From there, and this is a great one, right? Look at this one. We rallied here. We pull back to the 38.2% level. We bounce, retest the highs. We then go right through the 38.2% level, right down to the 61.8% level before we rally a couple times. So this is actually one where multiple levels end up getting tested. And the idea with this framework is, a level is firm until it's broken, and when it's broken, you look to the next one. The 50% level, is sort of a secondary level, to be honest with you. And there's also secondary levels that some people put in, between the extremes and those first levels. I just tend to use these middle three. And so what I generally would say is when the 38.2% level eventually breaks, you immediately look down to the 61.8% level as the next anticipated level of support. From there, we've now broken through the last Fibonacci level. So what does that mean? Well, the Fibonacci approach would tell you then we're most likely going to retest the eventual low, 100% retracement, and get back to that low point. So the Fibonacci levels can be used in an uptrend. It can be used in a downtrend. It's really whenever we've had a big move, which sort of sets up the indicator. Not all charts, really make sense using Fibonacci retracements, because if we're just in a nice long-term uptrend, I don't really need Fibonacci retracement levels. I need those retracement levels when I feel like there's a big rotation lower. That gets us to the chart of the S&P 500. Is the S&P 500 going up? It absolutely is. I would say undeniably so. I actually have these Fibonacci retracements on my daily chart of the S&P, the one that I have on my main chart list that I review every morning. And I have these levels on here not as a firm look. I think the market's topping out. Here's where we have support. During an uptrend, a lot of times what I'll do is just kind of keep bumping these lines higher, just to sort of think, all right, if we would start to get a sell-off, where might I anticipate support, right? Where would be that first Fibonacci level? And I often sort of use that to just start to think ahead a little bit, right? And that comes from, I would say flight training, right? If you train, training as a private pilot, learning to fly a Cessna, you learn that you plan for emergencies, not once the emergency is happening, right? You don't wait for the engine to cut out to figure out what you're going to do about it. You sort of figure out your exit strategy, figure out your emergency plan when everything's great, right? When you're flying straight and level at 6,000 feet, that's when I'm using some time to think, okay, if something would happen right now and I lose power, what's the closest airport? What's the frequency? How would I get there? And you plan all that out ahead of time. So if something would happen, you've already kind of thought ahead of your exit strategy, right? That's why trailing stops are really valuable to put into place, not once the stock starts to rotate lower, but when things are great and when things are just going fine, that's when you start thinking about, all right, what would change on this chart for me to start thinking to position differently. So with that in mind, is it a good time to put the Fibonacci retracements on the S&P yet? No, I don't think it is, because we keep making new highs. We're actually making a new all-time high today on Monday, June 1st, as we're trading above 7,600 for the first time in history. So I don't have these Fibonacci levels on here thinking today is a top. I just have them on here, ready to go, because at some point we're going to hit a peak. And by thinking about some of those levels ahead of time, then I'm not going to be too surprised when we start to rotate lower a little bit. So that is how we think about Fibonacci retracements, right? This is how we identify the right charts. It's not a stock just in a big uptrend or a chart just moving onward and ever upward like the S&P 500. In my opinion, you wait for the chart to start to show weakness. In a big downtrend, you wait for the chart to improve. You can use it on stocks that have been going higher or going lower. Either way, it doesn't matter. The idea is we've established a range and now we're trading within that range. We looked at examples like Microsoft, like Lululemon, like AT&T, which help you think about, particularly on the swing trading time frame, how using some of those levels to anticipate potential support and resistance can be quite valuable. As I showed with some of these charts, don't forget to use indicators like RSI, use things like the 200-day moving average, because if those line up with some of those tests of the Fibonacci levels, maybe that gives a little greater conviction to some of those levels. Are there examples where you've been able to use the Fibonacci retracement successfully? Make sure you drop a comment below. Share the chart with me. I'd love to see it for sure. By the way, if you want to learn more about some of these techniques and how we apply them day in, day out as a technical analyst using the best practices of technical analysis in our daily market review, you want to check out my market recap show called Chart This with Dave Keller. You can find that also along with my Market Misbehavior podcast on the Market Misbehavior YouTube channel. I hope you'll check it out today. My name's Dave Keller with Market Misbehavior. Thanks so much for watching my show here on Stockcharts TV. And remember, it's always a good time to own good charts. Take care, folks.